Any of that stuff that can feel dense in the system, that feels like it has a little weight to it, and it pulls you out of your heart, it pulls you out of your center. You suddenly feel a little stressed, you suddenly feel like it's difficult to respond to life, more so you might be reacting to life in some way, and just kind of feeling like your whole center is getting rocked enough that you're not feeling so peaceful. So that of which feels like just a bunch of whatever, right? People are like, well, sometimes it happens. Well, that can be cleared out. That can be cleared out so that whenever the world does happen, you start to experience a high level of ability to not react and rather respond. So that response can come in a peaceful way to something you normally would be very reactive to, which is amazing. So when we do work internally, what we're doing is we're beginning to peel away any of those layers, right? And whatever comes up, comes up. You know, we're an inner child specialist as well. I do a lot of inner child work. I do a lot of forgiveness work. I do a lot of rewiring of the subconscious through planetary grid work and the Christ consciousness energy, just really working with light and white light energy specifically. You know, really bringing in light. When we say light, meaning bringing in whatever some part of ourself needs. So when we talk about parts, we're talking about non-integrated fragmentation of ourself. Sometimes we'll have a child part that's still existing when we're a baby within us. That's like, I didn't get the emotional attention or affection or love that I needed. So we can have a part of ourself that's still sitting in the past within us that's waiting to get that still. And when that comes in, when they start to, it's amazing. Like inner child work is so beautiful, especially when you're connecting with, you know, spirit and you're feeling, you know, connection to your soul online. There's a way to process where you really feel that divine connection as you're working with any part of yourself. And that's one of the wonderful, I think, gifts or blessings that passes through of my system when I work with someone is that they begin to feel very held and supported by their own system and from spirit and from the divine and from creation. And as that light meets up in your system with any of this non-integrated, fragmented self-work, that of which is maybe some part of yourself still needs a whole lot of compassion. So, you know, you'll feel that infusing into the center of that part inside that pain. And again, I have many modalities that I bring forth, but it's really whatever's, you know, what, to meet someone's system and rapport with what they need in that moment. And so when the light meets up with any density in the system, it is almost instantaneously healed and removed. And so that layer, right? That layer of whatever's coming up, right? The session or the healing experience will show that to you. You might say, gosh, I was really feeling stressed lately. And what I've been really feeling is a lot of fear. I've been in fear that I'm not enough. And so we can go in through that doorway. That's a layer. And you never know. You might heal in a one experience a whole chunk of that. You know, suddenly you've given some part of yourself that's been hanging on to this limiting belief that you're not good enough and this judgment for your whole life. And suddenly that light enters into that space where that density is within yourself and it is literally dissolved rapidly, like, right, like, instantaneously, and suddenly you're, like, crying and you're emoting, and you're feeling like, "What is happening right now? This is like I was 3." And it's like and then the little girl inside you saying, "I just didn't know that I was good enough. I'm ready to let this go." Like, this is just a very brief example, but it's amazing what happens when, again, truth when the light of truth, which is what the light really is based in, truth meets up with the illusion of which is the separation within, right? And it lands in that density which does not exist in truth. I mean, is it true that any of us could ever not be good enough or not worthy when we are literally fractals of the one? When we are literally a divine emanation of creation? Right? Like, when that's the key here is that, you know, those layers especially get shed when both truth is met in the system against the illusion, infused into the illusion, as well as the understanding that comes from like, "Ah, wow, like, I didn't even understand that this is what I was holding." Like, there's something really powerful to kind of, like, start to understand yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that light work, that healing work, it meets up with some layer of yourself, and it's like, "Oh, now I can let this go. I just didn't understand. There was an illusion here. There was a misperception. There was a confusion." And as that gets cleared up and that light enters into the space, it's like an instantaneous dissolve.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How do we bring our stories to completion? I know you have a class coming up, I believe, that is something about letting go of stories. So if you want to share a little bit about that, that would be awesome.